a remote episode of the Georgia Prep Sports Drive for the GHSA state title. We just got done with week 2. I'm trying this out. Hopefully, the audio is working. And moving forward, we'll be able to do some shows on the road because we're going to be all over this season now that the drive for the GHSA state title starts. If you want to look at some of the matchups we're going to be televising, we have about 80% of them, I'd say. You can go to the side tab of scoreatl.com, and we have the dates and matchups right there. So I'm going to talk about the great Atlanta Bash that we had. It was 4 games, started on Friday, concluded on Saturday. And the first thing I got to say is I think we set the Guinness Book of World Records, if not for the hottest football game of all time, definitely the hottest triple header of all time on Saturday. That was crazy how hot it was on that field. And so we tweeted out, we had the thermometer on the turf, and it started out because it was about 100 degrees, the heat index 115, 112. That thing, the thermometer went up to 140 degrees. By halftime of the Mays Douglas County game, it was pretty much broken. It was 150 degrees on that field. So I know a lot of people were out and about on Saturday. They know it was hot, but also factor in this is Eddie Henderson Stadium, used to be Grady Stadium. There's not a high school venue that's just like two giant concrete stands on each side. So it was like an oven. It was insane how hot it was. And so the fact that these games got played, the coaches, the bands, the cheerleaders, the fans, the players, obviously, the referees, the camera crew, the fact that they all just toughed it out for even one game was insane, but the whole day really was something else. It's going to go down for sure. And people talk about the Ice Bowl and, oh, this was the coldest game ever. I challenge someone to find a game that was 150 degrees like that one was. So I thought on Friday, it started out, it was Carver, Atlanta, and Calhoun. It was a very intriguing matchup that we're all interested to see what was going to happen. So Carver, they opened their season playing another team that typically isn't on the schedule. They played LaGrange and got the win. I thought that was very impressive. LaGrange is an extremely well-coached, competitive 4A team. They were replacing the quarterback and some other skill positions, but Carver went in there, got the victory. It's a huge win. So they were going into this Calhoun matchup trying to improve to 2-0, where Calhoun, they opened their season against BT, and it really wasn't an ideal result for them. I think they only scored 7 points. Their offensive line got completely blown up by BT. They couldn't establish the run whatsoever, even with Caden Williams. And so I was interested, what's Calhoun going to do offensively, especially against a Carver Atlanta team that in their LaGrange game just got after it, had 14 tackles for loss in that game, and really dominated. So I'm going to try to pull up our write-ups, and then based on that, I'm sure it will refresh my memory on exactly how it went down. So I guess in conclusion, it was a great performance by Calhoun to bounce back, pick up the win. Both teams are 1-1 now, but I still was impressed by Carver. They've got some serious playmakers. Josh Stone in that secondary is the real deal. And then overall, they are a complete team. I was impressed with their quarterback as well. Adam Shealy made some really nice throws. Had, I think, a tipped ball interception. Really just a game where some of the balls didn't bounce Carver's way. But we mentioned it was hot on Friday too. And overall, I thought it was a very impressive overall game. Calhoun ended up pulling away, though, 40-18. So let's see. After forcing a Calhoun 3-and-out on the opening drive, Carver was the first on the board. That's right. They went up 6-0. That was a touchdown pass from Adam Shealy to Torin Kemp. Calhoun responded with a 22-yard touchdown pass by Trey Townsend to Amari Winston. So Trey Townsend, Calhoun's quarterback, looked really good. And then obviously Amari Winston, one of the more highly touted recruits. He's an absolute beast. He was number 85. He was pretty much unstoppable all game. So that gave Calhoun the lead. Then Katie Williams broke loose for a 46-yard touchdown run. Very impressive. Showed the power he has in his legs to break tackles. All right. Then Bryant Arnold. He had an interception. He came up absolutely massive for Calhoun, just in that secondary, was making big plays. And I believe he was the one that missed pretty much all of last season with an injury. So I think last week was his first game back since, and it was just great to see the type of impact he was able to have. He's going to play a huge role this season. All right, so Lataeus Stepp Jr. had an 81-yard rushing score for Carver right after that, but then Calhoun added touchdowns on a Trey Townsend quarterback keeper, and then Bryant Arnold's pick six. So that put it up 28-12. All right, so then right before the half, this was a really exciting play. So we're looking at 28-12 now. Carver went for two after both those touchdowns, did not get it. But then right before the half, Stepp broke loose for what looked like was going to be just a game-turning play. I think it would have been like a 80, 85, or 90-yard touchdown run. And then Cameron Penny of Calhoun ended up chasing him down and tackling him like right at the 1-yard line. It was an extremely impressive effort, smart play, really helped change the game to prevent Carver from potentially getting it to a one-score game. I'd say it was probably the play of the game right there. And so Calhoun was able to preserve their momentum. Then in the second half, they got a blocked punt. Sager Quinn on that Calhoun defensive line played really well. He was physical throughout the game. And then Montez Bird as well had a fumble recovery. They added a field goal, and then Townsend to Winston touchdown on the final play of the third quarter. Got a safety, and then that's how things kind of went away. But if not for that touchdown saving tackle by Cameron Penny, that would have been a one-score game at the half. I think Carver is going to benefit from playing in that matchup. They looked great in certain areas. They have some things they can clean up for sure. And I'm excited to see where both teams go from there. I mean, after seeing Calhoun struggle against BT, I was ready to say, all right, Cartersville, they look like the team to beat. I've heard a lot of good things about Hiram as well. Cass, they seem to be struggling in some areas. They ended up losing another coast game. They're 0-2. I think they'll be fine. But I was ready to say, you know what, Cartersville looks like the team to beat in that region. But after seeing Calhoun, the way they responded to that week one loss to BT, they're going to be in it for sure. They're going to be very tough. And I think what we're going to see is what we saw last year, potentially no teams out of that region coming out unscathed. They all seem to beat each other, and then it creates a logjam. So that was that for that game. Let's talk about some of the other results from Friday, though, before we get to the Saturday game. So I think one of the most significant results was Peachtree Ridge beating Lanier. So Peachtree Ridge opened the season against Seconder. That's the team that, although they are making strides in just year two, Seconder still is searching for that first ever win. So Peachtree Ridge going out there, having an impressive performance against them. It's like, okay, well, it's Seconder. They're still new. Peachtree Ridge should probably have the edge in that game. Well, the win over Lanier, that's a big deal. I think that's a game they lost last year. Maybe they won that one, but Lanier's returned a lot. And so it was 44-36 was the final. And Darnell Kelly at quarterback just putting up massive numbers, and he's passing the ball a lot. I mean, I think he had over 40 attempts in there. So we're seeing it with Coach Helmrich. He came over there last year. Peachtree Ridge started off very strong. They ended up having a bunch of injuries. Things kind of fell apart in the region. I think they have an opportunity, though, with the way Kelly's passing the ball, and then you look at their schedule, they might be 6-0 after that Meadow Creek game, and then you're going to have big region game. Meadow Creek will be a big game for sure to look at. Meadow Creek got the best of them last year, but if Peachtree Ridge is 6-0 heading into these big region battles with your Norcrosses, that's going to be a huge opportunity. And I think Darnell Kelly at quarterback, it's been lights out. He's been really impressive. And you look at the statewide standings after 2 weeks, he's up there near the top. I think it's AJ Hill from Houston County. You got Sire Hardaway all averaging above 300 yards a game, and then Darnell's right there, just a sophomore. So really impressed. Peachtree Ridge is an intriguing game, and their victory over Lanier was very, very positive for them. Carrollton, 49-0 win over South Paulding. I expected them to come out strong after that close loss to Hughes, and then South Paulding, they were replacing a ton. So that's a big sign right there. And getting the shutout, that's exciting also. And we got the Carrollton Rome game coming up this week. Rome was also impressive. They ended up giving a late touchdown to Lithonia. I kind of wanted them to get that shutout because they obviously had the shutout week 1 against Cass. I thought that would have been a heck of a storyline. Carrollton, with that offense, Juju Lewis, going up against a Rome defense that hadn't allowed a point, but their first stringers and probably second stringers have not. They gave up that touchdown during a running clock when the game was already over. So I think it's going to be a great matchup for sure. Julian Lewis had 2 touchdown passes in the first and second quarter. So I think he finished with 4 touchdowns. And then Kamari Farmer had a pair of rushing scores. And it was a 42-0 lead at the half. All right, in other Class 7A action, how about Campbell beating Kennesaw Mountain 26-15? That was huge. Campbell won 1 game last year. And, I mean, Kennesaw Mountain looked impressive against Creekside. So that's a huge win for them. And that's Coach Jeff Phillips. I believe he was at North Springs last season. That's huge. And that was Braden Hayden and Jalen Shelton. Looks like they had a good day running the ball to keep that pass-oriented Kennesaw Mountain offense off the field. North Gwinnett bounced back from that opening loss to Mill Creek with a solid victory over Archer. It was 28-16. They were up 28-3 heading into the final quarter. So good defensive effort for them. I think with Mill Creek, the reason they lost that game, it was Cam Robinson and then some of the deep balls that Shane Throgmartin was able to connect on. All right, so then Newton, they were up. Yeah, they won 54-20. Apparently, that's their biggest win ever over their rival, Alcovey. They're 2-0. They've looked strong. And then the Buford game, that was a 10-7 win by Buford. Yeah, that's a great victory. They've only allowed 7 points in 2 games. I think the defense is getting it done. But in terms of offense, people want to see Buford's offense get going. Their next matchup will be a good opportunity for that. They're going to play North Cobb, who fell week 1 to Westlake and then has been on a bye. So I think that'll be intriguing for sure. And those Buford North Cobb games have been exceptional year in and year out. All right. In 6A, Roswell 71-7 win over Centennial. KJ Smith, I believe he ended up with 7 touchdowns. I don't know how many were through the air, but that's just insane. Gainesville, tough win over Mountain View 34-21. They're 2-0, but they have had to battle in both those victories, first over Marist, second over Mountain View. We mentioned the Rome game. They were also up 49-0 at the half before cruising. Reese Fountain had I think he had a rushing touchdown, also 2 touchdown passes in the first quarter. And then Joe Wilkinson, who ended up winning our defensive player of the game against Cass week 1, he had a 92-yard interception return. So he has had a tremendous impact so far. Thomas County Central 45-7 win over Thomasville, a ranked Thomasville team. They totally dominated that one. Hughes 40-9 win over McEachern. They pulled away late. It was a close game at first. Same sort of thing we saw with the Carrollton game, a slow start. Once Hughes gets going, though, they are so good at taking control of the game. Looked like Dorian Page had a big impact and also had a 98-yard kickoff return touchdown. And Justice Savage, another big performance, 123 yards. Marist, a huge win over Pike Road, Alabama, to improve to 1-1 after that loss to Gainesville. Their defense looks impressive. Glenn Academy, big win over McIntosh County Academy. Houston County, the 42-35 win over Perry. That was a 1-point game last year, so I think Houston County is really good, but Perry is always a tough matchup for them. All right, then Lee County dominating Hapeville Charter, 42-0 at the half, 51-14 win. Croma had 3 touchdown runs for Lee County, so hold on one sec. All right, let's go over a couple more Friday ones that stood out to me. Clark Central, 38-31 win over Oconee County. I mentioned that Clark Central last year, it was almost comical when I was talking to Coach Perno, just how many games they had a chance to win, just didn't go their way, it slipped away, ended up having to win their season finale just to make it into the playoffs, and then ended up falling short to Allatoona. But they're off to a 2-0 start, and they had a 38-31 win over Oconee County. They were up 38-21. Oconee County had 10 straight points to bring it within a touchdown, but unlike last year, they were able to close it out and avoid letting it slip away. So that's a huge sign for them. I know that's a big victory for them right there. Let's see. Oh, yeah, another 6A game. BT just absolutely dominated ELCA after their big season opener against Calhoun. So they're 2-0, and they're looking really good. They are. All right, so GAC beat Lovett 36-13. This is their best start in several seasons. I thought Lovett definitely wanted to bounce back from that tough Westminster loss, but GAC was way too much for him, went up 23-7 at the half. All right, Cartersville, 24-13 win over Jonesboro. That's a good sign for them. It was a close game. Jonesboro is going to be a tough team for everyone on that schedule this year. They're big, got some big-time playmakers. They're physical, but Cartersville was able to outpace them and jump to a 21-0 lead before closing out a 24-13 victory. Cambridge beat Denmark. Ware County cruised past Richmond Hill 28-7. Jones County with Judd Anderson, 4 touchdown pass performance from him and 2 touchdown runs. So 6 touchdowns for Judd Anderson, one of the top prospects at the position. They cruised past Decula. In 4A, Pace Academy beat Westminster on the final minute. Maddox Crawford, 2-yard quarterback keeper with 43 seconds left to lead them to the 33-31 victory. That was an incredible back and forth game. Pace Academy was able to bounce back from the Holy Innocents loss, and then Westminster dominated against Lovett last week, but I had a feeling Pace Academy was going to win. I thought just playing Holy Innocents week 1, that's such a tough football team. They run the triple option. That can be frustrating. Just in terms of time of possession and just how hard it is to stop that for an entire game. So I had a good feeling, but I also think Westminster definitely had a chance to win that game. So it was much closer than I thought. Stevenson improved to 2-0. I saw they just cracked the top 10 in the AJC poll, 54-0 win over Riverdale. Benedictine dominated their out-of-state contest. Let's see. Yeah, 42-9 over Chambers, North Carolina. Holy Innocents beat neighbor Riverwood 35-14. They look in mid-season form for sure. All right, let's look at 3A. Carver Columbus, another strong win, 21-0 over Spencer. I think they are a little underrated in some of these polls. Stevens County, 35-0 win over Class A Division I, number 3 Rabun County. That was impressive for sure. And then in 2A, Callaway beating Cedartown 27-10. Watch out for Callaway. In 2A last year, you had Fitzgerald, Thompson. I really like Fellowship Christian this year, but watch out for Callaway. They've won state titles before, and that's a big win for them over a physical 4A Cedartown team, the defending champs. Pierce County also ranked in, I believe, the top 5 this week. 41-0 win over Jeff Davis. Then Prince Avenue Christian cruised to a victory, 42-0 over Nashville Christian. Aaron Philo, 3 touchdown passes and 2 touchdown runs. On Thursday, Troop, man, watch out for Troop in 4A, 50-0 win over Hardaway. Teo Todd had 3 touchdown runs and was an easy 5 of 5 passing for 91 yards and 2 touchdowns. So 5 touchdown performance from Teo Todd, probably all in the first half, and they look outstanding. So that's pretty much it for my Friday breakdowns. I'll talk a little bit about how the rankings moved from my end. I put Walton number 1 in 7A. And I don't care if people say it's because I'm a homer. Yes, I am. I like Walton. I like the Raiders. I like Coach Bruner. I want them to win state. There's no secret about that. But you look at their 2-0 start, they've jumped out to 35-0 leads in both. So is Buford higher in the national polls? Is their defense more loaded with D1 players? It's like, well, maybe that argument can be made, but what other team has come out and built 35-0 leads? That's game planning, and that's obviously getting it done on both sides of the football. You don't jump out to a 35-0 lead if your defense isn't also shutting down the opponents. If you watch the Grayson game, they weren't doing anything offensively in that first half at all. Their only points came on the kickoff return. You look at Brookwood this past week. You knew they were going to try to line up, get that ground game going. Nope. Walton shut that down. So we haven't really seen an offense establish any sort of rhythm against Walton so far. And then offensively, they just look so say composed, confident, explosive. This time it was Makari Bodiford going off, the running back. He's exceptional. The Memphis commit, Hecklinski did his thing once again. Wyatt Sonderman's making big plays. Up front, I mean, Walton looks like the best team through 2 weeks. We'll see how it plays out. I just think when a team opens up 2 straight wins over top 10 teams, 35-0 leads on both of them blowouts, school record 63 points in the Brookwood game. Yeah, I'm going to reward that. So I had them preseason number 2. They're number 1 this week. Buford goes down to number 2. It's not because I don't think Buford is a state championship contender. It's just got to reward what Walton's done these first 2 weeks. And then both of Buford's games have been really close, and we just want to see the offense get going more. It's like, I know the defense is doing this thing. That's great. Yeah, defense can win championships, but I know even Buford fans will understand they want to see that offense get going. And then I pushed Milton down a little bit. I think to number 6. They were at number 3, and it's the same sort of thing. It's like you judge Walton's first 2 games, they're doing everything right. The defense looks great, offense is cruising. Milton has to find a running game. That's why they lost this last outing. They had trouble running the ball against Collins Hill. Collins Hill shut that down. They average about 1 yard a carry, and that's with like a one play that probably made up 50% of those yards on the ground. So they need to find that really soon. We know Luke Nichols the real deal. We know DeBron Gatlin, Ryan G, their offensive line. I'm confident in that. Defensively, 100%. That secondary is loaded. They can get after the rusher. So I see Milton. I think they're ultra talented. They have to find that offensive balance. And they lost. They're 1-1 now, so they slid a little bit. And because of that, Collins Hill, I put them in the top 10 last week. But the fact that Milton now lost, if Milton was 2-0 and Collins Hill lost to Milton, I'm keeping them at 10. But that loss and the fact that Collins Hill was off this week, Collins Hill exits, and then Grayson's back in it, just because I thought that was a good way for Grayson to respond. They absolutely destroyed Eagles Landon. I think they put up 83 points. So, yeah, we'll see what Collins Hill does. They play Brookwood next. I think that'll be an interesting matchup. And I think if Collins Hill comes out and wins that one, I think they might be getting some attention. I'll put them back in the top 10, and maybe some other people will as well. But yeah, 7A is super crowded right now in terms of that top 10. All right, so let's go to Saturday real quick. All right, in our first game, that was Miller Grove and Jackson Atlanta. So those teams have played the last few seasons. It was 1-1 all time in the series. I thought the player that impressed me most was Miller Grove's. Put a little receiver, running back 2, but that's Ollie Dargan, number 4. His first touchdown in that game was unbelievable. He had to kind of jump to catch just a short out route. As soon as he landed, there was like 3 Maynard Jackson defenders in front of him. He made them all miss, made another guy miss, got to the sideline and just blew past everyone. So Coach Melvin Brown said, his quote for speed, it came from Franklin Stevens. He said, "You either have it or you're chasing it." And we have it. And yes, they do. Miller Grove, they have serious speed. Ollie Dargan, when he has the ball in his hands, he proved it time and time again in that ball game, including the big touchdown to get them going. They ended up winning 35-22. They built a 14-0 lead. Maynard Jackson did its best to try to come back, but I think the combination with Dargan making plays in the passing game and then the physical running of Tajon Corbett, a multi-year starter for Miller Grove, that was definitely the difference. And so let's see anything else from that game. Yeah, with Maynard Jackson, let's see. Yeah, Rashad Harp was their quarterback. He was making plays, including a touchdown pass to Jarvis Reed Jr. early in the fourth quarter to fuel that comeback attempt. They got Ricky Dorn. Maynard Jackson is just a really young team. I think they're going to be great this year. They made noise last year in 5A, beat Mays in the region, and then lost a really close playoff game to an outstanding Cambridge team as a 1-score loss in the first round. So I expect Maynard Jackson to be back in the playoffs. Can't really fault them too much. I just thought it was the big plays by Miller Grove. So in the second game, Douglas County and Mays. So it was really interesting because Douglas County entered that matchup I think they had four defensive backs out. I don't know how many of them were out from the Stockbridge or how many went down early in the game, but basically they had to put, besides Israel Boyce, they had to put receivers or guys that were second string, third string in the secondary. And so that made it tough already. And then the Douglas County offense didn't get going until the third quarter, which once Douglas County got going, they put up 35 points in that third quarter. 35 points. And so in that game, they were down 20-7 at the half. As I think Seth probably wrote this up, but he's exactly right. Before controlling all the facets of the game in the second half, and then Mays tried to come back late. But yeah, 48-42. This is funny. So in the quote afterwards, because I did this interview and I was laughing too, he goes, "I just told Coach Slayton to not call me anymore. We aren't playing them anymore." That was Coach Johnny White after the game. And yeah, it was a great matchup last year. Douglas County has won the last two. Both have been shootouts, but I think his frustration was at the end of the game when it was kind of over. Mays just refused to quit. They were doing onside kicks. They ended up putting their UGA commit Quintavious Johnson in at quarterback, and I don't know if you guys saw some of the runs he did. I mean, that was just because you obviously don't game plan for that. Putting like a big 265-pound freak athlete in at quarterback, I think that just turned it into no longer your chess match or game where you're trying to call plays. Just like, oh man, this guy's bigger than us and he's just going to try to truck us. So that made it interesting as well. But let's talk about some other developments in this game. So they were up 42-20 entering the fourth quarter. And then that's when things went crazy. It was a 70-yard run by four-star Quintavious Johnson, who was playing defensive end and quarterback. So his ensuing 2-point conversion made it a 42-28 game, 14 points. So Mays got the ball back with 7 minutes remaining on a fumble recovery by Quasi Casey. After he stripped the ball from Hardaway, the Raiders cut into the lead 42-35 on a touchdown run from Johnson with 6 minutes left, but Douglas County secured the victory with a touchdown run from junior Michael Hasty. Mays scored with less than a minute left in the game on a short run from Johnson, his fourth touchdown of the game, but it was out of reach at that point. So he said, "I thought we came out and played well in the third quarter. We were up 20, but I got to give credit to Mays. They didn't quit, but I'm still happy we won." So Mays was up 21-7 in that game. And so how did Douglas County come back? That was Sire Hardaway and their incredible receiver, Aaron Gregory, making plays. They ended up taking the 21-20 lead on a 61-yard touchdown pass from Hardaway to, who was that? That was, James Johnson, the junior. And then they also had a touchdown run from Rakeith Kelly. But yeah, really explosive third quarter to build that 20-point lead. Sire's slant pass to Gregory for a touchdown, a 12-yarder. And then Aaron Gregory was, as we mentioned, having to play in the secondary that whole game. So that was the hottest game of the event when it was 150 on the field. So that's just crazy what they had to endure, and then just overwhelming them in the third quarter, having that slow start and still putting up that many points. Very impressive. And I think it's a great start for Douglas County. Beat a great Stockbridge team week 1, beat Mays to improve to 2-0, and it's exactly what you want to see, because obviously they weren't healthy in that matchup with all the guys out in the secondary, having to move guys around, and then just having the defensive end go in at quarterback and run 4 touchdowns. That's just a crazy game. So think things will get back to normal. So we close it out. Well, before we talk about that, Creekside also was played a big nationally ranked team and got the victory. So they got a matchup with Mater Day in California this week. Definitely tune into that one. All right, so the final game, Douglas and Booker T. That is the Westside Classic, a big rivalry game. Douglas opened the year with a win over Mays and then got the 27-0 shutout victory. Very, very impressive. Booker T, they fought hard the entire game. They had a lot of playmakers, but Douglas just looked really solid defensively. And then, let's see, they went up 8-0 on a Darian Harden touchdown and then a 2-point conversion from, who was that? This says Watkins. Okay. Yeah, he's a junior, not a sophomore. Antoine Watkins, number 24. When I talked to Coach Pritchett before the game, he said that he wasn't sure if Antoine Watkins was going to be able to play because he was, I think, nursing an ankle injury, but he toughed it out and looked fantastic. He was also the closer in that game as well. You had Kenneth Johnson with a 50-yard interception return for a touchdown that iced that game. What number was he? One sec. All right, I see Malik. Where is Kenneth on here? Interesting. I don't see him on our roster. But yeah, Jonte Gilbert played great as well. Douglas looked impressive. I think they're going to make noise in 3A, and you're going to see some good matchups. I think they'll play Carver extremely tough, and I think they're only going to get better from there. But that's a great start for them. Last year, they won 3 games, made the playoffs. So they're 1 win away from matching that, and they're legit. You don't beat Mays and Booker T to start the season without having a squad that is ready to go. So that is it. Let's see if there's anything else for top performances. I don't see that yet. Oh, yeah, Central Carroll. I want to give them a shout out. They had a big win over defending Class A Division II state champion Bowden, 34-14. So watch out for Central Carroll. They've got a big test coming up in that Cedartown game, and if they want to kind of take the reins of that region and knock off the team that definitely beat up on everyone in that region last year, I think they can do it. They got a great quarterback, and they have not skipped a beat after Coach Smiley left and went to Sandy Creek. But we're going to be back tomorrow. Najee and I will break down more of the results with underrated and overlooked. Thank you, everyone, for joining us, and hopefully this worked.